Well, good morning and welcome to the banks of a rather damp River Thames. I've come to Walton on Thames. I'm next to the bridge, which is a known bream hotspot. Now, I was a bit apprehensive when I arrived here at first light because I was looking out, and normally you see them rolling here, there and everywhere, and it's very, very quiet out there. So I'm not too sure whether the bream are here. That is one of the problems with this area, is they do move about at different times of the year. You can get here, you can bag up. We're talking big bream here. We're talking like, you know, all sizes from skimmers, but up to sort of £8–9. So it's going to be all about worm, fishing worm, feeding ground bait for a feeder. First thing I did when I got here was I got the big browning feeder out again, filled it up with ground bait that was frozen down from my sessions at Frensham again. I put some chopped worm and maggot in there and a little bit of pellet, but not too much because I want them to be feeding on the naturals. Cast out to around the middle of the river, around 35 yards, and just put in about 8 big kind of feeder loads of bait. Let it hit the bottom, strike it off. I've just marked up my 2 rods to the same distance, which is about 40 yards, and I'm going to get the rods out and start fishing. Well, I'm going to make my first cast, and I have actually seen a couple of bream move, which is absolutely brilliant. I've got one rod which I'm hair rigging like a worm kebab, and one where I'm just putting it straight on the hook, just to see if they have a preference on how they're going to want it. This one's straight on the hook. It is a bit time sensitive up here because it is really busy with yachts, boats, canoes, you name it. You see, clipped up. It's really deep out there. It's probably, wouldn't surprise me if it's 20 foot. It's still sinking, Hit bottom, couple of turns on the reel, and we're away. First rod is out. Second rod won't be far behind. This one I'm hair rigging the worms, so a little worm kebab can sometimes work, but in all honesty, normally straight on the hook does the job. Bait and needle, caster goes on first. Two or three worms, mainly the heads I use. We might get a few small fish, perch, but hopefully we're going to get some big old River Thames bream come along. So if you can get them and catch them directly on the hook, great, because as you can see, big bream just rolled out there, middle of the river. So I know I'm on fish. It's just a matter of, can I catch them? Say, feeders, nice quality ground bait. I use the Dynamite Big River cheesy garlic one. It's a lot heavier, but I have got some left over from the sessions at Frensham. All good quality bait. Chopped worm and maggot in there. I'm fishing heli rigs, which might sound strange, but it is so slow. There's no pace out there. Aiming for a far bank, no mooring sign. Hit the clip, hold the rod high. You can say, that is deep out there. Just about hit bottom. I'm fishing on my rods because I am fishing clipped up. Difficult to have a rod rest here, and yeah, hopefully over the next course of 3 hours before the river gets too busy. I'll have a few bream to show you. Well, there you have it. I've been out probably no more than 10 minutes. That's a hair-rigged worm. Rod tips gone round. I'm not using quiver tips because I'm fishing quite beefed up kit. You never know what you're going to hook here. Although it's not really a barbel area, you do get the odd carp, but it's generally bream, but it's snaggy. I'm putting big feeders out, and believe me, these fish fight. They're not small fish. I've had them to, you know, 9 pound up here, but that was 10 minutes out there. So I'm not fishing quiver tips. The rod tips are 125s. It just bounces round, and we're in pretty quick. In she comes. More. Not easy up here, but the problem is the swim to my right, you just cannot see the boats coming down. So there you have it. Proper Thames slab. Worms hanging out its mouth. Be careful not to dangle your bait too much in the water and walk away, because there's loads of swans here. That's actually quite a small fish. Probably about 4.5 pound, but yeah, what a great start. Well, as you can see, I haven't even got that rod back out. And the rod tip's just tapping away, and we're in again. This is what it can be like up here at times, but there's other times when it can be completely devoid of fish, and I think sometimes they just, depending on the conditions of the river, they move down, they go in the marinas, bit of a safe haven for them if it's really flowing through. But this one is just on the straight on the hook. I'll probably change from the hair rigged one because it is just so time consuming trying to get those worms on the hair. But 2 bream, 2 casts, 2 bream on the Thames. And the lovely thing here is, all through this stretch, the bream are here, not just this swim, and you can actually catch them during the day. I come up in the morning because obviously it can be really frustrating with the boats. They have absolutely no, how can I put it? They don't care if there's anglers about. They come ripping up the wrong side of the river, especially the young lads in their kayaks. And if you're not on your guard, they take your rods out and basically stick their fingers up at you and continue. So I like to get down here early in the morning. This isn't a very big fish, but as you can see, they proper hang on here. I'm going to put a couple in a net for you, a keep net, just to show you what it can be like up here, but I'm not going to put all of them. This one's quite a small fish for here. As you can see, not the biggest Thames bream, probably about 3 pound that one, proper plump one. So I'm going to put him straight back, hopefully catch a bigger one. They're certainly here in numbers and on the feed. This is Bream number 5. I certainly do know how to fight in this deep water. I've not even been fishing an hour, missed a couple of bites. I'm getting more on the actual worms directly on the hook, but then I'm also missed a couple, so just play about and experiment how they want it on the day. They might not want a big bunch of worms like I've got on the worm capat. On the hook I've just got one big worm, or one big dendrobrina cut in half. Oh, that was the other rod going. It's a proper one, this is. Proper Thames Bream. Yeah, that's a bigger fish. That's what we came for. Absolutely massive mouths on them. I can see why the carpers on the Thames have to use big baits, or I can remember when I carp fished it, I used to use like 2 18 millers and I still got bream. So that's a proper one, that is. That one I'll put in the net and I'll show you later, but I'll go through the rigs as well. Rigs and tackle, although there you have it. Proper Thames slab. That one's probably, yeah, 6.5, maybe pushing £7, that one. That's what we came for. That's fish number 5. Not too sure what time I got down here. I think I was probably on the bank about quarter past 20 past 5. Fishing, setting up took a little while. It's not even 7 o'clock yet. This is fish number 5. I was hoping to have the camera set up so you could see me getting bites and striking, but unfortunately I put the battery in my camera. I've got a tight camera bag, and it's not the first time that the battery's flat because where I've pushed it in a tight bag, it's turned the camera on. Schoolboy error again, we all make them. Another good bream this is, not as big as the last one. This came on the hair-rigged worm. So, actually this is bream number 6. Pass that under that rod. Make it a little bit easier to land. So you won't just catch on this swim, but it's nice because the lovely thing here is parking's really easy, it's free. It's great for, let's say, a disabled angler because literally 20 steps behind me there's disabled free parking. So you can come up here, fish off here, this platform next to the bridge. Great. I've got my car parked just down because there's no double yellow, so I'm making the use of that. It's also a cafe where you can get a coffee, bacon butty. There you go. Bream number 6. Typical one for here. Unfortunately they are slimy up here. I'm going to put that one in the net, so I've got 4 in the net, get those out, show you. As I say, I've not even been fishing, not much over an hour, so I don't want to keep too many fish in a net. So I've got 4. I'm going to get this rod in, get those fish out, show you the sort of stamp, get them back, and then literally just enjoy it until about 10 o'clock when the boats will be an absolute nightmare. But there you have it. 4 big bream off the Thames. I've only been here, just over an hour. Haven't retained these for that long. So I just wanted to show you the sort of stamp of bream you get here. Anything from £3 up to £9. These are typical lovely Thames bream. on the feeder, on the worm, early in the morning, and I'll be home well before lunchtime. But the time now is coming up to 7:30, and it's gone a little bit quiet. I just brought both my rods in. One didn't have any bait on. The worms had gone, which I suspect is small perch, dace roach, that you can get pestered by up here at times. The other one on the hair rig was fine, but it's gone quiet. I haven't seen a bream roll for a little while. So what I'm going to do is just put some bait in. This is what I did when I first got here. I just filled up. This is a Browning 40 gram cage feeder, but you can see how big it is. And I do this when I'm tench fishing, bream fishing on the lakes, and do it here because I like to think, even on a river that's 80 yards wide, that I am fishing relatively accurately. You can ball it in with a catapult, but I like to do this because I know I get the bait straight down. I think that was a bream I heard roll there, but so I'm just filling it up. You need a carp rod to do this, and sort of I think I've got 18-pound line on because it weighs a ton. Clipped up, I just cast out earlier, clipped up to about 40 yards, I think it's 37 yards. Hitting the clip, counting it down, you can see it's still going down, going down, going down, going down, still going down. Come on, and now it's hit bottom. That's how deep it is, even on a big feeder. And then just strike that off. This feeder comes straight up on the surface. Takes a bit longer than at Frensham, where it's like 2 turns and it up because it's so deep. But when it goes quiet, I just think, you know what, before the boat's here, I've got another sort of hour or 2 at max. So I'll get some bait in. I've had 7 bream. If I get another 3 or 4, I'll be happy. So big feeder, hit the clip, let it hit the bottom, so you know your bait's down on the bottom. I'm casting towards a sign that says no mooring. My left hand rod upstream is right on that one, and then I'm putting the hair rig one a little bit downstream and just wind it in and repeat. And then I'm going to leave enough to get the rods back out and mix some more ground bait up. Loads and loads of goodness in there. Chop worm, maggot, as I said, a bit of pellet. Hit the clip, let it go down, and then I'm going to mix some more ground bait up. Ideal for this, it's a Dynamite Big Fish River cheese and garlic. It says barbel, carp and chub on it, but it should say bream as well. Well, this is what can happen quite often up here. Fish on, both rods, and that is literally minutes after I put that, you know, extra ground bait in with that big feeder just to activate it. So I'm not sure if I've got 2 fish on here or if I've just taken that other rod out. No, we definitely got 2 fish on here. Got a couple of anglers just turned up, probably. That's what happens, you get here early, you catch the fish, they're going off now. That's one in, and I unhook this and then drop the landing net down and put another one in there. Just got to be careful here. If they say carnage, but bream. Be careful, mate, because that's going. So that's all right. That's all right. Not a problem. Yeah, catching a few bream. You not fished it before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, you had a few and it's just gone off. I just put a bit more bait out and they've turned up again, but so when they turn up, they turn up. I got one in the net, which was on this rod, and two on at the same time. So. Proper Thames fishing, this is. Oh. Good way to break a landing net, this, isn't it?
Two in the net.
Two in the net at the same time.
Okay, well, good luck anyway.
Cheers, bud. So there we go. That's what can happen on the Thames when they move in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, nice.
Two bream at the same time. Well, those last few minutes were a little bit frantic. Two anglers turned up, so I don't know how good the coverage on the camera will be, but it just shows the importance of getting some bait out, reading your swim. It had gone slow, so I thought I'd use the remaining ground bait I've got, get the big feeder out there, clipped up, put it in there. Both rods went off together, which is typical up here bream fishing. To be honest, quite often when they're really having it, one rod is all you need. And I'm using worms simply because, oh, there's bream still out there. I've got loads left over from a tench session and some maggots from a guiding session a couple of days ago, and it's all good to go in your ground bait. There's a few pellets in that dynamite ground bait anyway, but you don't have to use worm. You can come up here and fish the pellet, little PVA bags, scaled down carp tactics, fish it with a feeder. If you go out on maggot, I think you're going to get bitted out. So the importance of reading your swim, when it goes quiet, get some bait out. As I say, I haven't got long here to go. There's people, loads of joggers, other anglers turning up. Traffic is on its way into London town. Fortunately, not a lot of boats, so I've still got a bit of time, but when those boats turn up, it's time to go home. Well, this is bream number 10. Even if I said they average £4, that's £40, and I think they average more than that, so very easy to put £100 of bream together here. Biggest has been about pushing £7. They've been quite small here. All depends on what shoals in front of you, I suppose. But this fish is probably going a small one. I think it's shaking its head a lot. Oh no, that surprises me. That's bigger than I was expecting. I'll put the mat here so I can actually show you the fish, or any of the better fish as I catch them. Again, this was on the hair rig. It's pretty much been 50-50. I just think on the hair rig you get knocks, you don't have to strike, you just sit on your hands and a rod's just like that, and it's literally they've hooked themselves. So that was a little bit of carnage a minute ago. Put some bait out, those two anglers turned up, two fish in the net at once. Couldn't really show you those, but that is what happens when you get a big shoal of bream turn up. And it is just so lovely to come on the Thames and catch them during the day, because quite often you've got to fish at night for them. And as you can see, they hang on here. You fish on a quiver tip and you'd be quite scary, I would think. But I might bring a couple of the Browning guys up here, Colin and Justin, if they want to come up here to do a video, because I'd love to see how a couple of good match anglers using one rod would do up here. I reckon they would take it apart. So I'll get this one up. Morning. Bream. Yeah. Big bream, yeah. Have a good day. An old warrior here, blind in one eye. As you can see, they're a bit slimy, these. In fact, they're very slimy, so if you don't like slimy bream, don't come up to the Thames. But that fish there, that's why we have a mat there. That fish there is pushing £7. As you can see, blind in one eye. An old warrior, the Thames. Cracking fish. As you saw, powerful. They fight like hell here. Thank you, mate. Time to go back. Well, it's about, I don't know, 20 past 8 now, and I've not had a bite for the last 20 minutes. So I'm still on 10 bream. Really happy with the results. And I just thought it'd be a good time just to run through the tackle that I'm using. Reels are my late father's Shimano 6000s. I wouldn't want to go any smaller than that because, you know, when you've got these bream, they fight. Winding in the feeders, you need a bit of cranking power. So 6000's ideal. The rods I'm using are my trusted Fox Kevlar barbel. I've got the 125 tips added. I could have put the 4-ounce tips in. Probably would have been nicer to play those fish, but to be perfectly honest, they do fight here. So you need some powerful kit, and you are casting fairly big, heavy loaded feeders out. The main line is £10 Browning Black Magic low die. That's ideal for here, £10. And then on the business end, as you can see, I've changed over both to hair rigged worms now. It's gone quiet. I can just sit on my hands. I've got a Browning 50 gram block end feeder there, a couple of float stops, small swivel, taper sleeve as a boom. I've got a £8 Senex fluorocarbon hook link, about, I don't know, 5 inches. If you go any longer than that with a worm, because it's a heavy bait, it tends to tangle, so about 5 inches. The reason I'm using the heli rig is there's hardly any flow here, so it wouldn't be what I would be using if there was a lot of flow out there. Here I'm down to a size 12 Spear Beast barbless here because I'm hair rigging, so they hook themselves. Earlier I was using a size 10 microbarb Drennan barbel hook because I was putting the worms on the hook, and when I got a bite I'm trying to set the hook. So the barbed hook comes in useful, setting the hook on a strike. When you're hair rigging, barbless is fine. So pretty simple, robust kit that will, you know, pretty much land anything you hook out here. Well, that's it. That's the end of the session. Short and sweet. The one thing you need to learn about this session, and what you try and get your head around, is you need to be fishing when the fish are feeding. They don't feed all day. Now, I think it's just coming up to 9 o'clock. My last fish was at 7:30. I cast out shortly after 5:30. So in those 2 hours, I caught 10 bream. And that is during which time, you know, I'm shooting video as well. So I reckon in those 2 hours, if I wasn't taking video coverage myself, then I could have had 20 bream. I could have had £100 of bream in 2 hours. But I would say now that I reckon if I fished another 9 hours till 6 o'clock tonight, it doesn't matter how much bait I put out there, how accurate I am, how good my rig is, I don't think I'd catch a bream. And if you come down there at the wrong time of the day and go through the same process as I've done, then you're going to think that there's actually no bream in this river. There's 2 guys here. They got here about 7:30. The fish would stop feeding by then. Yeah, they might catch a few small fish, but if you're after bream, and this goes to tench fishing at Frencham, there's no point getting there in the afternoon. You're cutting your chances down. So these bream here will probably come alive around, I don't know, 7-8 o'clock tonight. So if you're, what would I say, a night owl, then great, come down here, fish a few hours into darkness, you'll catch £100 of bream probably. If you're an early bird like me, and I would have got up at 3 o'clock, but it was absolutely tipping it down all night. The weatherman said it was going to actually finish raining about 5, so I got down here about 5:15, set the alarm for 4, and you know, I didn't really fancy sitting here an hour and getting soaked, but normally I'd set my alarm clock for 3 o'clock. I'd be here just shortly after 4 and have an extra hour, but come 7:30 I haven't had a bite. I've not had a tap on the rod. I'm winding in my baits. My worms are not even touched by a little perch. The fish aren't feeding. So it just goes to show that there are hundreds and hundreds of pounds of bream in front of me, but they ain't feeding. So just take it on that if you want to catch fish and catch more fish, then you need to come down at the right time of the day. Getting up early, especially when you're tench fishing and bream fishing, will pay you back big time. And as I say, I wish I'd got up an hour earlier, but then again, it was chucking it down. So a fantastic 3 hours, 1 hour that was a waste of time. Fantastic short session on the Thames where I've got 10 bream, 50 pound of bream probably, maybe a little bit more, up to 7 pound, and thoroughly enjoy getting back on the river. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, you take a lot from it, and make sure you subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and it won't be long before the next video comes your way.